Hello and welcome back to the only show with colder takes than the on-location shoot for the Hoth scenes. I'm Max,
I'm Matt.
I'm Luke.
and this is Force for Thought. All right, hello and welcome back. Today we are talking about Galaxy's Edge. Matthew and I had the opportunity recently to go on vacation together with our families, which was a time. We definitely found out that 5, almost 3, and almost 1 are definitely too young to take kids to Disney in the middle of the summer. We still managed to have fun. We visited Galaxy's Edge, and that was definitely the highlight for me. Because Matt and I got to walk around that part, but boy, was it hot. Turns out Orlando in June is like mid-90s and just 100% humidity. And yeah, that was brutal, but Galaxy's Edge was awesome. And I got to go to all the parks, which was great because I didn't get to do that since I was a kid. Probably like 3 years old was the last time I was at the other 3, other than Hollywood Studios, because I did go to Hollywood Studios before. But it was really
MGM
cool
at the
seeing
time,
them. Which one would have been Hollywood Studios was MGM at the time?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. But yeah, it was really interesting. Before we talk specifically about Galaxy's Edge, because Matthew, I know that you're a huge Disney fan, I just want to put it out there. What is your ranking of the 4 parks just at Disney World? Because I know your list was crazy. Like you had Universal and you separated out Disneyland from Disney World, even though they're the same parks. So cut out that crap. There's no way. I've never been to Disneyland. Luke has, actually. He was just there recently. Is it that much different, Luke? Be honest.
3 years ago, I wouldn't call recent.
Still.
No, it was the exact same.
What?
I mean,
Oh
I was very
so
unilaterally
different.
interested in Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland 3 years ago, the same way I was Galaxy's Edge at Disney World 5 years ago. So my experience was identical.
I would have assumed it would be for
Disneyland-
most people.
No, it's so Disneyland is banger after banger. That's the thing, is that it's all condensed into just 2 parks. And so that's why it's the best, is just because I feel like you're able to, like, when you leave Galaxy's Edge and Hollywood Studios, there's basically the Toy Story Land and then like the vibe of the 1950s, right? Basically throughout the entire park. But I think in Disneyland, it's just like banger after banger, little sections and stuff too. You can go to the Indiana Jones ride, which is one of the best rides of all time. But also, as a caveat, I am more of a Universal guy myself. Since we got back, and Levi, my son, did so well on the plane, and I mean, I would say he did okay at the parks, besides not wanting to be set down at all. My mom was like, "So we're going to Universal then?" And so now we're planning a trip to Universal in November.
Are you guys going
So
to
we're
the new
going
park?
back.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's it called?
That's
I want to say
Epic Universe.
Epic Universe. That's right. Yeah.
Bad name.
You think? Why?
But it's just, I just feel like people are like, oh, it's so epic. It's just, I don't know. It feels very 2012. It feels in line with YOLO or something to me. I don't like it.
All right. That's
Epic is a
It
very
might be
2012
epic.
word. That's fair, but
Isn't it?
I wouldn't go as far as to say it's a bad name.
I just found out recently what was in there, though, because I knew that it had another section to the Wizarding World, which is like the big draw.
Mhm.
But then other than that,
Yeah.
it was also like Pokemon and Nickelodeon. Is that what was it?
No, it's Super Mario. It's How to Train Your Dragon, and what I'm excited about is the Dark Universe, the monsters.
Oh, interesting. I must be thinking of something different then. I don't know. Whatever.
I can't believe there hasn't been a Super Mario World already. What's the new Harry Potter edition? Because they already have Diagon Alley and Hogwarts, which I'm not a big
Ministry
Harry
of
Potter fan,
Magic.
but that seems like the best part. Yeah, Ministry of Magic seems like a tier below Hogwarts and
no.
Diagon Alley for sure.
So
but
cool. Well, yeah. Kind of, yeah. It's so exciting, though. You get to go to, Gringotts and Diagon Alley and stuff, which is great. And you get the Ministry of Magic, which is cool. Anyway, I could talk about that stuff all day, which maybe we'll do a more for thought at some point. But I would rank the Disney World parks as Epcot number 1, number 2, Hollywood Studios, just because the pure bias of Galaxy's Edge. Number 3.
Galaxy's Edge wasn't number 1? What the fuck is Epcot?
I mean, Galaxy's Edge is great, but I've been going to these parks since like a kid. It's like overall experience, and like Galaxy's Edge, again, Galaxy's Edge bias, which is what ranks Hollywood Studios up from number 2 versus number 3, which is Magic Kingdom, which I also love, and then Animal Kingdom, which I don't really care about. but I enjoy every time I go because it's relaxed
Hmm.
in comparison to any other day.
Uh,
That's how
I,
I would
I
rank the parks.
I was being genuine. I don't know much about Disney World. I've been to Disney twice in the last as an adult, but every time just for Star Wars. So I don't even know what Epcot is. Is that like it's
It's
not Magic Kingdom, which is the only thing I picture Disney as outside of
Yeah.
Star Wars. So
it's
what is
the
it?
one with the big ball. So it's gotten a bit more kid friendly, which is great. But it's about you get to travel the different countries, which is really nice. So each little section has a different country. So you can go to, like Germany and then France, and in France they have the Ratatouille ride, for example. And then you go to Mexico, and so there's a lot of great food throughout as well. Or you can be like what Max and I did, which is get very mediocre sherbet basically and very mediocre pizza. I believe is what. So we didn't have another choice, but we're like, okay, we're all very hungry now. Let's just take a break for a second.
So
But it's also got Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff too. Anyway, Max, how would you rank them now that since you went to all four very recently as well? I know we keep
Well,
talking
it's
about
hard-
this, but Yeah.
So, like I said, this was the first time that I've been since I was 3 years old, and my experience was kind of skewed by the kid situation.
by 4 kids.
Yeah, because I wasn't able to go on like all the rides and everything, which is like fine. I wasn't expecting to, but one of the rides that everyone kept raving about was Guardians, and I wasn't able to go on that one, but like everyone else was. We were with a bunch of other people too. I say everyone because Matthew, you didn't either actually. So you and I are in the same boat on that. But you've written it before, haven't you?
No, I have not.
No?
It just came
Oh,
out like in
man.
the past year or so.
Oh, I did not realize it was that new. That makes sense then, because everyone was raving about it. Everyone was like, "Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
one was definitely the best one." And I was like, "Dang it!" I did get to ride the Avatar ride though at Animal Kingdom, and that one was pretty good. But I put Animal Kingdom tied for last. And I say tied because I want to be clear. People treat Animal Kingdom like it's the redheaded stepchild of the Disney parks. It was not bad. I enjoyed it.
Mhm.
Now, because it was so
Last.
hot, I did. It is still. It's tied for last. But it's not like a huge difference between 4 and 3. That's why I'm specifically saying
You
it's
can ha-
tied. It is
You
just
can have a least favorite child without it being a redheaded stepchild.
yeah, exactly. But it was definitely underrated. So they have the safari there. They have a bunch of animals there. Obviously, that's like the whole thing. But the safari was amazing. It was like the
Mhm.
best way to see animals because we live in Columbus, so we go to the zoo pretty frequently too. And it was way better than the zoo because in the zoo, you're just walking for 20 minutes in the sun and then you pull up to an exhibit and you're just like, oh, cool, look at those lions off in the distance. And then you just kind of stare at them for 5 minutes. And then you're like, all right, let's walk for another 20 minutes. This one, you got to sit in a vehicle. They drove around. You saw like all the animals you would want to see in like a 20-minute span. You didn't have to move. And they were so close to you. And a lot of them were active. I don't know if we just went there on a good day or if they like pumped these animals full of steroids or something because they're like, we got to put on a show for these people. But the animals were great. So really great safari. And I got to ride the Avatar ride, like I said there. So, that also bumped it up. And because it was so hot, I do give a lot of credit for shade. And Animal Kingdom definitely provided the most shade. So I
Yes.
appreciated that. But I say it's tied for last with Magic Kingdom. I thought Magic
Mhm.
Kingdom was only okay. Like it was really cool seeing the castle. Like obviously like the iconography and all that was neat and everything. But it really didn't do much for me. It was the rides were only okay, and I'm even trying to think now what are the rides at Magic
Very
Kingdom? There's
kid-centric.
Space Mountain.
It's a small world.
It's a small world.
It's called Astro Blasters in California, which is why I keep calling it Astro Blasters. But it's like Buzz's Space Adventure Ranger bullshit or something.
That's at Magic Kingdom?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because there's a Toy Story park too in Hollywood Studios, and so I kind of get
Yeah.
confused which one's there and which one's not. I do think I rode that one though. But what else is there? What else is at Magic Kingdom? Because I feel like the rides were a little underwhelming. Oh, it has the it has your
Very
favorite one.
kid-centric.
The Haunted Mansion ride, right?
Haunted Mansion. Yep. Haunted
Yeah.
Mansion's there.
Because you said that was like one of your favorite rides, actually. And then when you
It
told
is.
me, you were like, "That is not a common answer, though." You were like,
yeah,
"It's my
I wouldn't
favorite."
say it is. I think I don't like roller coasters. I like the not slower-ish rides, but I like the vibe. I like the feeling of it's got a little spooky pre-show, which is fun. So yeah, I love Haunted Mansion. It's very cool. But yeah, it's to me a Haunted Mansion or a Magic Kingdom. I think is it is a blast, but it's very kid-centric. And like I think which is weird because when you don't have kids, I feel like you're able to enjoy it more. Like when you're like Main Street with all the cool shops and stuff, like all that. Like when we went to go meet or have our kids meet like Mickey and in the front of the park, like all that area. Like I've never done that before. I've never like met to meet Mickey or anything, but like going over in that like Main Street area and getting like corn dogs and going like to the shops and stuff. It's all very cool and like a really fun experience. But like obviously we didn't do that because we were kind of hustling the entire time. Magic Kingdom was, I think, is it's the correct way to start off, so you can kind of just go heads in. But wow, was it a rough start for us? When we were like, all right, let's take all these kids now on this boat to drive a half hour, basically to
Yeah, that was the other thing too.
go
It's weird
sweat.
getting there because you go to the parking lot, but then you
Yep.
have to either take the ferry or the train.
Yep.
Yeah, that was weird. I did enjoy like the kid aspects of it, like the princess meetups and everything like that, because they had
Yeah.
the one thing where they have the two princesses and each of them has a secret visiting princess, so you get to see one of the princess and you don't know who the other one is. So it was like a fun little surprise, which was really cool. For some reason, we were talking about it in line with my kids, and we were like, "Oh, I wonder who the other princess is going to be." And my oldest just said, "I hope it's not Darth Vader." And I was like, "I'm pretty sure it won't be, but we don't know who it's going to be, but it won't be that."
That's hilarious.
But then
That's
when
so
we
funny.
got out of there, Matt and I were just like hanging out while the kids went and did something else. I don't know. And that guy came up to us, and I don't know if it's like supposed to be a huge secret or something, but he was like, "Hey, did you just get out of there?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Can you tell me who the secret princess is?" And I was like, "Oh, it was Rapunzel." And he was like, "Oh, thank you so much." And he ran away. And I was like, "Should I have not said that? Am I gonna have the Disney police coming after me now?"
He ran. Did you see his family was like right there, and he was like, "It's Rapunzel! It's Rapunzel!" It's like
He was like waving
them
up. He's
on.
like, "Go, go, go! We're live."
That's exactly what it was. Like before they switch out.
No, I don't remember
we
him
need-
talking to his family. That's funny.
Yeah, it was.
Before they switch. That's interesting. But anyway, I thought Animal Kingdom was just as good as Magic Kingdom. Then I do put Epcot at number
Mhm.
2. I liked Epcot quite a bit, actually. I thought that the ball was cool. I liked the different parts of the world. It did have a good amount of variety, and I didn't get to ride the Guardians ride, but everyone did say it was like by far the best one. So I put Epcot at number 2. How you don't put Hollywood Studios at number 1, though, is beyond me. I think Hollywood Studios is a great park aside from Galaxy's Edge. The fact that it also has Galaxy's Edge puts it so far over the top for me. There is a huge difference. There's a chasm between Epcot and Hollywood Studios that does not exist between Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom. But Hollywood Studios is great. I like the Toy Story World. I got to ride those rides, and I like the 1950s feel and everything else that they have there. I think it's a great park. Even if you weren't doing Galaxy's Edge, I would go to Hollywood Studios. But man,
It's a weird thing for me. I'm realizing you just having even you saying that is I feel like I go to Disney for the vibe and I go to Universal for the rides. I think that's the difference. Because if I'm basing it just on rides, I'm going, I mean anything with obviously Galaxy's Edge, to go in. But like, yeah, Universal, I'm like, oh man, it's all about the rides for me there. But yeah, for Disney, it's really the vibe.
that's weird. But I get it. Because like if I were to just think about the vibe, like Magic Kingdom was definitely the most Disney of the parks. Like
Yes.
because it's all like princess themed and everything like that. So like I guess if that's what you're going for, I get it.
I guess it's like if I had to differentiate, I guess that's how I would differentiate them because like I think all the rides are mostly okay, besides Rise of the Resistance and Smuggler's Run, which I love, and there's like other ones that I enjoy.
I mean,
like
each park
like
only had
Haunted
like
Mansion, but-
2, maybe 3 like real notable rides. I mean, other than that, they're
Yeah.
all like really
which is
kind of smaller.
where I feel
stuff.
like Universal, and it's more like shows and Disney Princess meetups, right?
Yeah.
Like character meetups, where I feel like Universal is like very much about the rides and like the experience. Like every line is very intense and cool, even at Universal and stuff too. Like I love the Spider-Man ride when you're going through the Daily Bugle. Like like every little you're in that world.
That's
for that
cool.
ride
And I
in
like
every
I do
section.
like the immersion, but that is why Galaxy's Edge obviously is so impressive because it is so immersive. And because I
Yep.
went to Animal Kingdom the first time, the only real comparable section
Yes.
was
I
the
wanna talk about
Avatar
this.
part, which
Yeah.
was cool. But like, I don't care about Avatar nearly as much as I do Star Wars, and Pandora. Like, you can't like, it just wasn't as immersive because like they had like what was supposed to be like the floating rocks, right? And it looked really cool.
Yeah.
But like, it's an optical illusion. Like, you can still see like where it's like obviously connected to the ground, so it's like they weren't really floating, but it still looks really cool. You get the idea and everything. But they don't have the immersion of like the drinks and like the little vendors and everything like that. Like in Galaxy's Edge, you got all these vendors, you got all these shops, like everything is in universe. Whereas
Yeah.
in, quote unquote Pandora, it's still just like people at Coke carts selling you
Yes.
$20 bottles of Coca-Cola.
But and then beyond that too, Animal Kingdom again, the most shade. I like the vibe of Animal Kingdom, but when you go into Pandora, it feels like you're just going into that park again, like the same park. Like it doesn't feel otherworldly necessarily, besides like some like lights or something. Like I heard it's really cool at night. I think that's when it
Mm.
maybe comes alive because I think there's like blue stuff and floating things or whatever.
That could
But we
be.
didn't go at night, and also Animal Kingdom closes at like 6 p.m., so it's never dark in the summer.
Yeah.
So if that's true, then what's the point of putting it that in that park? But yeah, I was super unimpressed with Pandora. It's very impressive. I think that the architecture is really cool, and that's great too. I almost feel like, I mean, it makes so much sense. It's an Animal Kingdom, but if you were to put that in Hollywood Studios, like how much of a drastic difference would that be to have all that foliage? You know, that would stand out and stick out. Versus, I think in Animal Kingdom, it just kind of flows into it. But I think my biggest problem with it, realistically, if I'm being honest with myself, is I really dislike Avatar. So it's like it's a hard sell to get me to be excited about that. And the thing that got me really excited was the animatronics, though, in the riverboat adventure, even though that was mostly just foliage as well until the very end. But like that animatronic was fantastic. But again, it was again I do enjoy Animal Kingdom, and Pandora was very cool to look at. But when you're comparing it to Batu and Galaxy's Edge, it's the best part of
Yes.
it. Like I love the
It's
Wizarding
a testament
World.
to the
Yeah.
heights that the
Yes.
Imagineers at Disney have set for themselves, because
Yeah.
everything is immersive at Galaxy's Edge. Like I said, like you have that
Mhm.
little market where you have like all these different shops. You have the Ronto's Roasters, where it's like you can go get food at what feels like an in-universe restaurant, and everything
Yeah.
else is just so cool. And that kind of brings me to a roundabout way to Galaxy's Edge, because that's what we're talking about this
Yes.
episode.
Real
But
quick, how many times have you guys been there before as well?
this
To set the stage.
I've been there twice.
I think this was my third. This was either my second or my third.
I was there once with you in 2020.
That was the
So-
first time,
Count that one.
because that was the first time I was there, because it was right after Rise of the Resistance opened up. Because Rise of the Resistance opened up late
yes.
2019. We were there early 2020, right before the world shut down. I think
the
we were there in
pandemic,
like
yeah.
February of 2020, because I remember watching the Super Bowl there. And it was crazy trying to ride Rise of the Resistance at that time, because there was no line for Rise of the Resistance. It was all like scheduled on the app, and like you had to get at
Oh,
the
that's
park
right.
just to schedule that. So everyone was there at like 7:30 in the morning, and then as soon as the gates opened up, everyone immediately went on their phones to like reserve a spot in line. And we did that, and it was crazy. Like the second it opened up, we reserved the spot, and it was like, okay, you're reserved for 6 p.m. And it's like, oh my gosh. But they also have so many technical issues with that ride too, because it's just there's so much going on with it. Like there's so much technology involved, a lot of screens, animatronics, like new technology and everything, which is really cool when it all works out. But I feel like more often than not, it breaks down, which is a blessing and a curse. It was a blessing for us because it actually worked out really well when we were
Very much
there.
so.
Matt and I went to go see if we could ride Rise of the Resistance, and it was shut down. And we were like, oh, that stinks. But that meant there was no one in line. And then like, I don't know, 5 minutes later, we were like checking the app, and we were like, oh, it says it's open. Let's just go see if it's open real quick. And then we went there, and it like just opened, and there was no one there. So we just like basically ran straight on the line, right on the ride.
It was great. And before that, we also talked to a couple people. So this is the thing too, is that like we are big Star Wars fans, right? And so when you're like interacting with other people, you're assuming they're Star Wars fans, but apparently they don't expect that you are a Star Wars fan, which is awkward. And so we were looking at Max and I were looking at these helmets at this little shop, one of those kiosk stands right by Rise of the Resistance, and we were looking at like the children's helmets because they were the pilot helmets. They were very cool. Like there was a green one, there was an orange one, and then this lady comes over to us and is like, "Oh, those are for children. The adult ones are over there." It's like, yeah, I know that these would not fit my big head, lady. Like I know what I'm looking at. They just look cool. I just want to see these.
That's the
But they keep
problem.
making
She
me
thought
feel
she was
weird.
helping some confused old man.
No, there was a couple weird interactions
Yeah.
that Matt and I had, because then we went to like another like little stand or whatever that was selling stuff too, because I just like looking at the stuff
With the adult
problem-
helmets.
One of the problems with Galaxy's Edge is that the stuff that I think is the coolest is not for sale, because it's just stuff that's just like sitting around the park. Like they have these little booths set up and they're like, oh look, we have these helmets that you can buy and these patches and these vests, but then at the very top they just have like decoration. And I'm just like looking at the decoration and I'm like, how much money do I have to give you for that? Like one of them was like one of those charges that Han Solo uses to blow up the bunker on Endor. And I'm just like, can I just have that? Like, how much money is that? But we were talking to like the person who's running this little booth or whatever, and he kept trying to talk to us, and Matt and I tried to like politely kind of like shut it down and walk away, but he kept insisting, and we were like, okay. But it was a weird conversation where it was like he was very excited about Star Wars, but we like clearly didn't know that much about it because he kept saying things, and like we were kind of like
He was a
subtly
patron or the worker?
the worker,
Worker.
because he was talking about like the props and everything, and he was like saying how like they made the props for like the original films and everything. And like I was like, there were. He was like, yeah, they took like all these different props from like different models of airplanes and tanks, and they just kind of combined them. And I was like, yeah, kit bashing. And he was like, yeah, kind of. And I'm like, no, not kind of. That's what it's called. That's what they invented. Like that's the actual thing. But like it was like a couple things like that where I was like, okay. But I don't know, because it's always, no matter the level, I guess, of knowledge, is just fun to talk to other people who are as excited about Star Wars as I am. But it was just kind of a weird conversation. That was a weird guy, though. Also, he was socially
He was a
awkward.
weird guy.
But all the workers at Disney are like, you need to have a certain
Yeah.
personality if you're gonna take that job.
Very
But
much.
one thing that I wanted to talk about with the park was the canonicity of it all, because they made such a big deal when the park opened that it was going to be canon, it was going to be in universe, and I feel like they tried so hard to make all of that happen and all of it work, and like the story behind the rides, even like Rise of the Resistance and Smuggler's Run, how it was like, okay, yeah, these could be happening at this time at this park. They have the First Order Stormtroopers and Kylo Ren, and it's like, okay, like this can kind of all make sense. And even like the smaller shops like Ronto's Roasters, Oga's Cantina, Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities, it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But there is a certain point where it's like, but how much of this could be canon? Because Doc Ondar's is
Yeah.
selling legacy lightsabers there, so I'm like, obviously this guy's
Mhm.
not selling these lightsabers out of this shop. But then the thing that always the thing that always bothered me was the lightsaber building aspect. Now, I didn't
Mhm.
do that. Luke, I think you did, but I'm like, what is the story behind building your own lightsaber? Like, are we all force sensitive people and we're building our lightsabers on Batuu? And like, how does that work with the canon of the story? Like, does the Resistance know that there's just like a significant amount of force sensitive people building lightsabers right here?
Yeah, you've mentioned this before, and I do not share this grievance of yours that with the canonicity of Galaxy's Edge, because it's a theme park. Like they're obviously not in canon selling Coca-Cola in the shape of thermal detonators. I just have no problem separating the canonness from the theme park of it.
Mhm.
They do their best to make it as legitimate as they can, but yeah, it's not like I go to another place that pretends to be Ilum and go through an obstacle course to find my Kyber crystal to build the lightsaber. Like they just give it to you, and the guy reads a little flavor text, and it's really good flavor text. But yeah, I mean, some people pick red lightsabers, and it's not like you have to fight them immediately after. I don't know. It's a
that's
theme
good
park.
point too.
It's
I-
also-
see, but
I
that's fine
do-
that you can separate that, but like at the time, because they don't claim it anymore, they've just kind of given up on it. But at the time, it was like, well, if you're claiming this is canon, like there needs to be an explanation for this. Like you can't just release a novel and be like, yeah, it's canon, but just not have it make sense. Like that's the whole point of a canon, is that it's all consistent and everything.
There is an aspect I think to it though. Like, so I think in Batuu, obviously it's for the masses, right? It's all these people. But specifically with the lightsabers, I think you can look at it as a full story in the fact that you're on Batuu, right? You as an individual. Imagine all the other people are just like in the world and everything is just meant for you. You're the main character of that story. You can go and help Chewie and Hondo with Smuggler's Run, right? And then you can look at it in the fact of you're there to build a saber, because it is just, which is great, which one of my favorite parts of the whole park is the lightsaber building experience, for the fact that it feels hidden and it's supposed to be hidden. It's the name is what is it? It's like scrapyard junk metal or something is like what it says above the lightsaber building. And so it's supposed to be hidden. And so when I remember going into the park back when it first opened, it opened in California a couple months before when I was living out there, before it opened in Florida. So we went, I think, in June, and it opened in May. And so one of the same things when you said Rise of the Resistance, when you had to book the thing, right when you walked in, you had to book your lightsaber building experience or the Olga's Cantina. You had to book all that stuff, like right when you set foot in there, which is a really funny experience because everyone walks right in, and then there's just a group of people wearing Star Wars shirts, basically, booking their stuff, which I'm sure you guys had the similar experience. And so I remember booking it, and then I remember the workers being like, just so you know, it's kind of hidden off the beaten path. And it's like that design of the lightsaber building experience I thought was awesome because like you can look at it again, is in you're going there as like a quote unquote rebel, and then if you build a lightsaber, you kind of get your own experience where you're building your saber on Batuu. And then if you go Rise of the Resistance, you get captured and you kind of go through that journey. You end up back on Batuu, and you don't really know the ending of how you get out of there. But I like that aspect of like in canon, quote unquote, every person, or we can all be that one person. This character of the Batuu journey is meant to go on this journey of like Smuggler's Run. Go to the cantina, go build your lightsaber, go get caught by the First Order and return. So I think there is. I don't exactly know the continuity of how you could, in order, but I think that's how I always kind of read it also. Because the more you do, the more you feel like you're in universe realistically too. Like, again, the lightsaber building experience is cool, and they talk, again, it's meant obviously on a logistical level. They're talking to a group of like 20 people every time they bring someone in for building a lightsaber. But I think the purpose and the intent is that they're supposed to be talking to one individual person, aka you as the main character of this Batuu journey, and they're talking about how you're building this and crafting this lightsaber, and it's however you want, and you have to be careful because the people are out, the First Order's out there looking for people, using sabers and stuff too. So
Yeah,
that's
and I
why
get
it was
that,
awesome.
and it's kind of to me, it's like the same thing as like a video game, and that's kind of actually what I wanted to wrap it back to because they've given up on the canonicity of this all because they
Mhm.
said like, okay, like look, Mandalorian's super popular, so we're also just gonna have Mandalorian and Grogu. We're gonna have young Luke Skywalker, thrown in what is supposed to be the same timeline as Rey and Kylo Ren and
Yeah.
all that. So it's like they're just kind of throwing in the towel and they're just like, okay, whatever. Like it's fun, but it's not canon. And I'm totally okay with that. I actually think
Yeah.
Lucasfilm needs to do that more, specifically with video games, because it's like sometimes they try too hard to make everything fit a little too well. And it's like, you can just give us a fun game. Like you can give us a game where we
Yeah.
go and kill Darth Vader and like take the Emperor's right hand side and we take over the galaxy with him or something like that. Like you can't make a video game like that if you're going to make it canon. But you know what? I don't think the fans are really like demanding that everything be consistent and be canon because I feel like when you do that, you have this problem like the most recent Outlaws game where they try to give you like a sense by putting you in a familiar timeline with a familiar setting and all this, but it just feels inconsequential because you're like, well, like this girl isn't going to kill Jabba the Hutt or whatever the story is about. I don't know. I didn't play it, but it's like just give me the main characters. Like
It's
let me
not
play.
about that.
I just know that Jabba the Hutt's involved because it's on Tatooine or something. But I'm like, give me Luke Skywalker. Let me play Luke Skywalker. Let me kill Darth Vader and do all sorts of things
Mhm.
that would never happen. Like it doesn't need to be canon. I think that's totally fine. And I also think that's something that would have benefited their failed. I'm forgetting the name of it now. The hotel that they did.
The Star Cruiser,
The Star
Halcyon
Cruiser.
Legacy.
Because that was another one that they also tried making like an entire backstory for. It was like an immersive, like 2-night event. You would
Yeah.
go there and you would like live out this situation, and there's a bunch of things that you can do. There was like a mystery of some sort, and you can kind of like try to figure it out and like kind of play along. There was a big role playing aspect to it, and I think one of the problems was that it cost like $20,000 or something. It was crazy expensive. But the other is that, like, again, like they're trying to make this canon. They're going out of their way and stuff. But it's like, honestly, just like give me Darth Vader. Like, say, like, oh, my job is to find and kill Darth Vader or something like that. Like, I think that would just have a little bit more kind of appeal to the masses than this super niche story that I feel like only people like us would appreciate. by being like, oh, because this takes place between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, and at this time so and so is here, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I just think it's a good thing that they're giving up on trying to make the parks canon.
I
They're
agree.
giving up very slowly because they brought in Mando and young Luke Skywalker, but that's still near this era, timeline wise. Like it's not this era, and it does break canon that Luke Skywalker is young at the same time Rey is old, but it's not like Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan Kenobi is walking around or like young Yoda. So they're breaking it very slowly, and I don't know what the plan is. Like hoping we won't notice, or that if they go slow enough, we won't care, which is true to an extent. I think they could go a lot faster, and I still wouldn't care. But it goes back to just the business model when they bought Lucasfilm, when Disney bought Lucasfilm in 2012. The fandom at the time was real into continuity with the Legends timeline, and they were like, all right, so we're going to scrap all that, and they're going to be pissed, so we got to really make a big canon continuity thing going forward. And honestly, they made the right decisions with the information they had at the time. Everyone hated the prequels. Everyone loved the Rebellion era. They remade a Rebellion era. They distanced themselves as far as they can from the prequels. And then, like, right around 2016, when the park is about to drop and the movies are coming out, everyone's like, oh, actually, we love the prequels. And then, like, 2017, 2019, everyone's like, oh, actually, and we don't like the sequel era. And so, Galaxy's Edge is now just kind of stuck in this spot where they had invested, I don't know, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars into it, and 8 years of development, and they can't just go back now to match the vibe of the Star Wars fandom. And so they are stuck down this road. But yeah, I would love it if they would just do away with the whole canonicity of it and be like, here's Galaxy's Edge, and then over here is Coruscant, and you can go into the Jedi Temple, and there's Mace Windu and Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I was gonna say, I feel like they should do that.
That takes a lot more effort, but
well, I feel like it makes sense. I feel like what they're doing with the Harry Potter at Universal. They have Diagon Alley, and they have Hogwarts and Hogsmeade and everything too, and then they also have the Ministry of Magic. I feel like you could do that with different eras. It'd be great. Like, yeah, I do kind of want to go to Naboo, or like maybe Tatooine, maybe not so much, but like you said, the Coruscant and the Jedi Temple. Like, you could have these themes in the other parks even, and I feel like then you can expand. I don't think that would be super rad, and sure, things maybe won't be the most, I don't know, continuous, but like I think that would be super fun to do, and there's so much Star Wars to build off of. That'd be amazing. I mean, like when we went there, I feel like Galaxy's Edge is still packed. I mean, you don't have to reserve things as much, but I mean, like everyone's going to Rise of the Resistance, and Smuggler's Run is always a blast when you're the pilot and co-pilot. But like that's the one flaw on that ride to me is just like, man, they really give me a gun, if I'm gonna blast, But I mean that. Do you want to talk about the ride? I mean, there's so much to get into as well. I mean, like also just like. Max, you're hosting, so please take it away wherever way you want to go. But I was going to say one of my favorite aspects is the idea that this is the only world you feel like you're actually in Batuu. I was going to mention this earlier. When you're in the Wizarding World, I love it, but you can see other parts of the park. You can see outside of the Wizarding World, where in Batuu, it's specifically designed to make you feel like you're in the world. So the facades are super tall. The trees are super tall. So you cannot see a single thing outside of that. Not only that, but you can not hear anything else, basically. You can't hear screams of the roller coasters or anything. It's got a soundtrack that was specifically made for the park, which you can buy on vinyl as well. So there's a soundtrack, there's sounds, and there's different things that you can walk by, right? You can walk by the X-Wing. You can walk by all these different ships and speeders. There's that random mechanic shop that nothing happens with, unless I think like once or twice a day there's like a little show with Rey and Chewie on top of it, which I've only seen once, being there 3 times. So there's so many little details that I still have not seen when I go there. Like Max, you and I caught the tail end of when Kylo Ren comes out of the ship, and it's like, oh, I have not seen the actual full show before. So all this stuff just randomly happens. It's not like on the app where it's like, oh, Kylo Ren's entrance or whatever. You just have to go and catch it, which is some of my favorite things to do, because you could spend all day in Galaxy's Edge and still not see everything because you don't know the timing. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a fun thing that makes you want to go back to it consistently too. And like again, I could sit in a spot and listen to the sounds overhead that feels like there's a creature in the woods 10 feet away, or that there's, some sort of ship flying over you. It's jarring every single time, and it feels like you're in that world. Like when you and the Miras were on Smuggler's Run, it was great. Like I got to walk around by myself for 20 minutes. And it was just like I just like sat and enjoyed it, while my family was off in another show. And then it was great when we got to, walk around, and then we went back later that night, thanks to your wife's suggestion of booking the cantina at 9 p.m. when the park closes. And then like we got to wander around, mostly Galaxy's Edge, in that section by the Millennium Falcon for what, like 45 minutes or like so. And like I feel like we inspected every inch of the Millennium Falcon, like literally every single inch of it, and there's nobody around. We were like the only
it was
people
completely
in
empty,
that
which
section.
was such a cool feeling. Like none of the shops or anything was open, obviously, but it was still just really cool. It was dark, and it was like a little rainy too, which
it's perfect.
Obviously is a very normal thing here on Earth, but for some reason really made it feel otherworldly.
Yes,
it was a good touch. But yeah,
Max is walking around. What's this falling from the sky?
Basically, yeah. I'm just like, wow, I feel like I'm really at Batuu. But the attention to detail is always so impressive, and I did want to talk about the audio because I was paying attention to it when we were there. We kept talking about it, like the audio transitions when you go from not just Galaxy's Edge, but like all throughout all of the parks. Like when you go from one section to another, they're constantly playing sounds and music and everything, and you can like hear where they start to kind of like transition you from one part of the park to the next. And it's really cool, and it's really subtle. But things like that always blow my mind. And Matthew, when we were there, is when you first told me about this idea of adding other parks, and ever since then I've been thinking about it, and I think that is a fantastic idea. That is because, let's be honest, like everyone who's going to Hollywood Studios is going to Galaxy's Edge, right? I mean, maybe you're going to all the parks, so it's like you're not going just to Hollywood Studios just for Galaxy's Edge, but if you're going to Hollywood Studios, you're going to Galaxy's Edge. And so it's like, why not add this to all the other parks? Like it would definitely if I go back personally, like I wouldn't go back by myself, but if I did ever go back to Disney alone by myself, I would just go to Galaxy's Edge. But if they have another park in Animal Kingdom and another one in Magic Kingdom, I'd have to go to all three because I got to get the experience. And that's the nice thing about Star Wars, is that it does span across multiple different timelines. It's not like the MCU where it's like it's all supposed to be chronological for the most part. This, it's like you can have these different places and have them immersive and have them be taking place at totally different times. So you can have like Mandalorian and young Grogu, or Mandalorian and young Luke at another park, and like you can be exploring that kind of like post Return of the Jedi Mando era timeline that everyone likes and that Disney obviously is keen on supporting or promoting right now. But then you can also have another park that's all about the Jedi and like the Republic era and all that. And you can have like the Jedi Council or the Jedi Temple and everything. It's such a good money grab that I would 100% be in support of.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's, I mean, again, I want to live those different those different areas, and there's nowhere really you can do those, right? Like I'm so jealous every time they have a premiere of a show or a movie where they have like some of the sets or the vibe of that season or that movie like on the red carpet, and you're like, well, only a very, very select few get to actually experience that. Like I will never forget, it's like when Force Awakens came out, like everyone was posting pictures with like this massive X-Wing, and TIE Fighter like on the red carpet. You're like, God damn, that's so cool. It's like, well, I want that, and it's like Star Wars Celebration, once in a great while, and that's about it, and I feel like, yeah, I want more of it. Obviously, who would have thought?
I'm okay with the amount we have. I'm not a big theme park guy. I went in 2022 and I went alone, and I did all the Galaxy's Edge stuff. I was only there for Galaxy's Edge, and after like 5 hours, I was like, okay, I feel like I've seen everything twice. I'm ready to go, and I don't think I'll need to see it again for a long time. I like the rides. I like Rise of the Resistance a lot. That's a great ride. Smuggler's Run was good the first time I went in 2020, but then in 2021, Star Wars Squadrons came out, and I got a VR headset, and I played that a lot, and it's only a little bit less immersive than Smuggler's Run, and I can do it in my home right here all the time. And instead of 5 minutes of content, there's like 5 hours, and that's really, really good. And so Smuggler's Run lost almost all of its charm for that when I went back in 2022. But also, I'm spoiled in terms of amusement parks because we grew up in Ohio and we went to Cedar Point a lot, which I thought growing up was like, oh, that's the best amusement park around me. And then I moved to St. Louis and started like interacting with more people from around the country, and it's like that's the best amusement park in the country and maybe the world. Like people, when I say I'm from Ohio, there are people that say, "Have you been to Cedar Point?" And it just set my bar so incredibly high for what I consider good rides in a good amusement park. And the 2 rides at Galaxy's Edge, with only one of them being really good in my mind, really doesn't excite me as much as I would like to be excited.
Damn, this is a bummer. This is Andor all over again. See, I don't like roller coasters, and I don't like that thrill. I like to be immersed in things. Like I love the ET ride in Haunted Mansion. Like it feels like
I'm
you're in
sure
a
I
movie.
would hate those. I can't.
That's why
I don't know
I'm-
anything about them. I think I would
Oh.
absolutely hate them.
That's why I'm going to those. I don't the roller coaster. You wait 2 hours for the roller coaster to have 45 seconds of that experience. Also, look, I feel like what you're describing is how people feel with virtual porn versus actual sex, which is interesting. The 5 hours versus the 5 minutes, and so I like to say that you're on the wrong side of history. I'm glad your
I am
family
not well
listens to
enough.
this.
I am not well adept into the conversation around virtual porn to even come up with the comments given time.
Real quick, just to confirm, your mother-in-law is not sleeping in the basement yet, correct?
No.
No, okay, good.
I had
Anyway,
a
sorry
similar,
for derailing.
when I was at Disney and experiencing all the other parks, I actually had a similar thought as what you just said, because I too was expecting more actual roller coasters. They are very few and far between, and the ones that they do have are relatively minor. Like they have like the Slink Dog ride, which is like an actual roller coaster. They had the Snow White ride I think that was at Magic Kingdom, but like both of those were like very small. The best rides were not roller coasters at all. Like
That's like how they go to
the
Universal,
Avatar
baby.
ride was
There's
the
so
best
much
one.
more.
But it was also interesting seeing like how all of the same technology gets reused when you see all these different rides, because it's like, oh, this is actually just the same thing as this ride. Like they just did it a little bit differently. And I had that feeling a couple of times, like with Rise of the Resistance. I rode the Ratatouille ride. It was basically the same thing as Rise of the Resistance. Like they have this little mouse car that you come and you sit in, and then it drives around and it just kind of like parks you in front of different screens, and you just kind of like, you're wearing 3D glasses, so everything's like coming at you, and like you just kind of like live out this scenario for like 15 seconds, and then it quickly like backs up and it moves you around, and you kind of like scurry underneath the table or whatever to a different part, and then it just kind of parks you in front of another screen, and you do it again. And I'm like, oh, this is the same thing as Rise of the Resistance. Like this is kind of disappointing. Not nearly as many bells and whistles, but like the same general idea.
Yeah.
And I forget what the ride is too, but there's another one that was basically the same thing as Smuggler's Run, where you just like sit in a thing and it's just like a screen around you, and you're just kind of like reacting to it. And I was like, oh, this is the same thing as Smuggler's Run.
Isn't that also just what Flight of the Passage is for Avatar? Just sitting in front of a screen. It's basically
yeah.
soaring. Soaring
Was the one I
Run?
was going to, so this is a specific example. Yes, there's a ride at Epcot called Soaring, and it's like a glider. What's it called? A hang glider, and you like you just kind of sit in this seat, and like your feet dangle, and it kind of lifts you up a little bit, and it just kind of like gently like sways you left and right as you watch this huge screen in front of you. Of like you're just hang gliding like throughout all the different like places of the world and stuff, and it's really cool. And yeah, it's the exact same thing as the Avatar ride, just Avatar is just a lot better because they just jerk you around a lot more, and the screen is of a fast moving I forget the name of the animals that do the flying or whatever, but it's just more exhilarating. And you don't see like the dangling feet of the people in front of you that also kind of take you out of the immersiveness of it. But yeah, that's another good example where it's like, oh, these are actually just like the same rides. They just do them a little bit differently. I don't know. I found that fascinating. I guess I don't want to say that I was like disappointed in that. It was just interesting seeing how the sausage gets made in those regards.
That's also
If
a
it-
mark of your high intellect to see these commonalities across the rides. I bet all the normies at Disney World are like, "Oh, I'm actually an Avatar now," and they don't all the similarities. So really, it's just because you're better than everyone, is what I'm trying to say.
I'm glad you picked
That's
that
not
up.
a-
That's what I was trying to get across.
Yes.
If he would have said it, it would have been obnoxious. But
For everyone
Um,
listening, if you thought, is he better than me? The answer is supposed to be yes.
it's
The immersion obviously isn't a negative. I do like the immersion when I go there, but when I walk around Galaxy's Edge for an hour and I get the green milk and I look at the droids and it's like, wow, I am really immersed in Star Wars. And then I go and sit in a line for an hour to ride Smuggler's Run and it's like, I'm just as immersed, but now I'm just waiting in line, and then the juice doesn't feel like it's worth the squeeze at that point.
So you're a green
Oh,
milk
man.
guy, huh?
I got both last time. I think I did remember. I think I did like one more, but I couldn't tell you which one anymore.
I
Max,
think when
which
we
one did
went,
you like better?
did I try both? I think you got one and I think you got the green and I got the blue because you had the blue earlier. You
know.
had both. I only had
I
one,
did,
but I
yeah.
might have had a sip of yours. I don't really remember. I just remember my blue milk, which is good. But I feel like I always got to get the blue milk when I'm there because it's like, it's the classic. It's the same dilemma that I have with my helmets. I just purchased a couple more helmets, and it's like not even the helmets that I want necessarily, but it's the ones that I'm like, well, I got to get this one because like it's a classic. You know, I need my Phase 1 and Phase 2 Clone Trooper helmets. But I was like, after I got them, I was like, all right, now I feel like I can really get the weird ones that I'm looking out for. But it's the same thing with the milk. It's like, oh, green milk, that's interesting. But I'm like, oh, but blue milk, you got to get the blue milk. But it's good. It's really good.
The food there in general is good. I think Luke, I think we talked about it, but like the Ronto wraps and the veggie Ronto wraps are great. Also,
Mhm.
I love those. I also love that even like the fruit selection. Like again, we were talking about in world. It feels like you're in world. Like they sell like dragon fruit, which is like so weird the way it's cut up even, and it looks otherworldly. Like no one. I don't,
Yeah.
who would
They're obviously
Nor-
not cultivating off-world fruits for this theme park, but they make you feel like it.
they do?
I feel like
yeah.
I am familiar enough with all the fruits on Earth, yet when I go there, it's like all of a sudden they got a new one.
Yeah, I don't eat dragon fruit. I don't buy dragon fruit at the
Mm-mm.
store, right? And so it's like, oh, it's always a little treat every time you're there. And so I feel like they do really interesting things. And I just the fact that they say credits, and then I feel like an idiot, and I say credits back to them, and then they're like, it'll be 24. I was like, yeah, 24 credits. I got it. No problem. And it's just like, I just feel like
They like lead in and
it
start
is-
whispering, legally, I need you to know that this is legal tender. Like, yes, I know.
Yeah. So I like that aspect too. I mean, I like again the food and the drinks make you immersive. Of course, everything is so expensive, and it takes you out of it a little bit. And the fact that you're like, the real world me should not be spending this money, $10 on a stupid drink, but I'm gonna twice in a single day.
But here I'm a rebel.
And so, yeah, exactly. And so there is like that aspect of it, but it's also when you're there, it's like once in a while. Like Doc Ondars is so sweet to look at too. Like you feel like you're in it, and then when you're like looking at the lightsabers and stuff too, and the different hilts, I feel like the people don't seem annoyed. Like if you're at like an ice cream parlor asking to try all the flavors, like you're gonna get annoyed. Everyone around you is gonna get annoyed. But like if you ask to see multiple lightsabers and hilts, like I feel like I was only like, okay, let me see these two, because if I go for the third, I'll buy one of these. And so I did not. And so, but I think I said this last week too. But once we left, I was like, I should have got Kanan's, because you can't really get that anywhere else. Like not even like a knockoff one. So I messed up, and I will be returning. No. And so yeah, I feel like, but I mean, I know we talk about this, but like you could spend in the shops beyond going into the shops themselves. There's so many cool things to look at too. I love like the loft cat, which is great, just sleeping and snoring and making those noises even. And like you can go in Doc Ondars, you see the Sarlacc pit and what it looks like underneath the sand and stuff, which I always love. Again, the Star Wars fandom, I think, is too pretentious sometimes when people, like I mentioned to my boss how much we love Star Wars, and she was like,
As I just
almost
claim to be
afraid-
better than everyone else.
no, yeah, but we're amongst friends. But like, I feel like then she was like nervous that to like talk about Star Wars but I was like, no, like the fandom should be for everybody. I think that's like the misconception. But then I like sitting by every single time without a doubt. With you sit by the Sarlacc pit and everyone's going to come by and say, oh, that's what it looks like. It's like, yeah.
Another
Yeah.
thing with the immersion,
But I'm
that-
glad
that-
for those people. It's exciting for them. It's exciting for me to see it. But I'm like, yeah.
Another thing with the immersion that doesn't land for me is the characters, because
Yeah.
I'm not a child, so I don't actually think that that's the Mandalorian up there. If you're a child, that's magical, and I support having them. But I saw 6 Mandalorian and Grogus at Comic-Con in Chicago, and
All
now
of which are
seeing the
just as
7th
good.
one, yeah, impeccable created armor, and now seeing a 7th one at Galaxy's Edge, it doesn't look any better. And so, yeah, same with
But the difference is
Rey and Kylo Ren and whomever else is there, Boba Fett.
the difference, I think, is you're going to be at Galaxy's Edge, and that person's going to be in character when you see them. You're not going to catch Kylo Ren paying a credit card bill next to the bathrooms. That's the difference, I think.
But I gotta say, that's also kind of a con, because when we were there, we did see Ray and Chewie, and we were like, oh, let's go take a picture with Ray and Chewie real quick. And so
Yeah.
Lauren and I didn't have our kids at the time. Matt had Levi, so you were like, oh, let's take a picture with Levi and Chewie and all that. And it was like really cute, and they were talking to Levi and everything. And then Lauren and I were next, and we just wanted a picture with Ray and Chewie. That was
Yes.
it. But like, they're paid to be in character, and so they come walking up to me and they're like, oh, are you a bounty hunter? Are you looking for a bounty on someone? And I'm just like, please just take the fucking picture. I do not have the mental I do not have the mental wherewithal to put up with this right now. I'm like, I've been here for 6 hours and it's 100 degrees. Please just take the picture.
Yes.
And they just kept talking to me for literally maybe like 3 minutes or so, and I had to just kind of keep like smiling and nodding, and I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, I
See,
get it.
That was the perfect thing with Levi. It was like, after like 30 seconds of that, I was like, picture? Like, just get on with it, please.
Mhm.
It's a good fake out too. But yeah, that was, and also I mentioned this too, is like, it felt like a weird thing where everyone's excited to see Chewbacca. Rey, not so much. You can see the divide. Like she was there, which means you have to take a picture with her. I was excited. I think Max was excited. It's like, Rey's a cool character for us. But a lot of people, I don't think that was the opinion of. And it felt very awkward. It was almost one of those things where, like, now let's take one without anybody who's married. Like, that's what it felt like. It's like, okay, you're like, Rey, you get out of here, and this is just Chewbacca. Like, do you have a Han Solo anywhere, perchance? Anywhere with a vest? Like, it felt a little off. And the same thing with
because- I was just gonna say, like, I think even Ray says it there. She said something about like, oh, Chewie gives the best hugs, and that's like a common thing. Like when you see someone in like a giant costume like that, for some reason you do. It's like a giant teddy bear, like you want to hug it. And Jonas Swodemo, the actor who plays Chewbacca, who Luke met at Disneyland, has said the same thing too. Like when you're wearing the Chewbacca costume, people walk up to you and they just like want a hug, and you just like have this weird feeling in your head, like, I bet Chewbacca gives good hugs. And I was thinking how funny it would be if like someone really played up the other aspect of that, of like, oh, Ray gives the best hugs, like me as like a grown adult. And it's just like, oh, dude, this is a little weird. And I'm just like, I'm pushing Chewbacca aside, like, no, Ray, bring it in.
Are you allowed
was-
to hug Chewbacca? Because I know the actors are typically very careful not to be touched by people. I thought.
Was that a
Is that not true?
COVID thing? That sounded like that was probably a COVID precaution.
No, I thought that was one of those things that if you're
I
like
feel
an
like-
adult, you shouldn't touch the actors.
I think
feel like I
if
saw
you're not
people giving Chewie
taking
a
a
hug.
photo. Yeah, I think Levi.
That's what I'm wondering, if it's
they
different
hugged
for
a bunch,
Chewie,
too.
or if like
they did Mickey.
I can't
Mouse,
imagine them doing
too.
it to Rey.
Yeah, I feel like it's a different if you're not in costume. If you're just like a person, that's got to be weird. I mean,
That's
sure
what
they
I'm saying.
aren't
It would be weird.
opposed to
I
it.
think
There's
it's not allowed. Like, I think she would step back and say something like, "Oh, I don't know, something in universe about why Rey can't give you a hug."
Interesting.
I mentioned this to Max too when we were there, but the in universe Batu character, Vi Marathi,
By Maradi.
it's so awkward. I saw her walking around so much, and like
Yeah.
I feel like I had eye contact with her, and for like I saw her like 10 times. I feel like she kept seeing me, and like I'm sure she didn't recognize me, but like I was like, is this a character or is this just a fan? I know you can't dress up in Disney, so it has to be a character. I have no interest. You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, it just felt so
Yeah.
bad. It's like I was like, that
Even-
actor has to know that job is timed. You know, like it's like, how long is that gonna last for when you have Mandalorian and Luke Skywalker walking around?
Even all the parts in Galaxy's Edge that don't hit for me, I can't deny that they're not good parts of a theme park or of Disneyland, and like a success in terms of the business. Vi Marati was a big swing and a miss. I don't know if they thought she was going to take off from that one book that she was in, or maybe two, but what are we doing here, Disney?
Yeah.
Like, why did you invent a character to be in your theme park and then not put her in a movie or TV show, but still have her in the theme park 7 years later? That seems... I can't believe she's still there every time I hear about her.
Like you said, like, what are we doing here? And also, and this is the first time I've seen her in the park. I've not seen her the other 2 times I've went. This is the first time. Of course, I saw the same lady, 10 times, walking around
Mhm.
like a freak, drinking my blue milk and then green milk later. She's like, this guy.
They could have. It's been 10 years. You could put her in animation, in the sequels, in any of the TV shows. Like, if you want to make this character something, you can.
She wasn't
Yeah.
even in
But-
Resistance, the animated show, was she?
Mm-mm.
I don't remember her. I think she was only in the book. I do know from speaking with our brother Jake, who is also a big fan of the books. Check out our books ranked episode. He said hi to her, and he was very excited to see her. And the actress who was playing her at the time was very excited that somebody was excited to talk to her. So
Yeah.
I think if you do see her, you should reach out to her and you should be nice and say that you're excited to see her and take a picture with her, because I think that the actresses do appreciate that. Even though I also recognize that they have nothing to do with the creation of the character, they're just there. They're getting paid for a job. But yeah, I think it has a toll on the actor at a certain point.
It's got to. I'm sure multiple times she has rated the person who plays Chewbacca's locker and spray painted profanity in there in the back room. I mean, overall, I like Galaxy's Edge every single time I go, though. I mean, since going in from 2019 to now, going 3 times, it's always the highlight of Disney, which is almost like the same thing with like when I go to Universal. It's like Wizarding World's gonna be the highlight, and there's gonna be amazing other stuff around it too. But it's like Galaxy's Edge is like the thing.
How
and
are
I
you
hope
going to
they
say
do-
that's
they
the
end up doing
highlight though
more.
and still rank Epcot number 1?
That's the thing. It's just a Lewis tradition. you know?
Hypocrite. Boo.
We love it. It's the overall experience is better, I think, at Epcot. But I do. I mean, Galaxy's Edge is the best. So again,
Star
is it-
Wars.
just because exactly, yeah, it's Star Wars. Again, yeah, I could stay in there forever, but like the amount of time that we spent in there was like very appropriate. I feel like I could have spent like another hour, an hour and a half. But you could move on. Like I think there is more weirdly to do in like the Wizarding World and even like Simpsons Land and stuff. Not there's more to do in Simpsons Land, but I love all the shots. You have to buy a lot at Galaxy's Edge. Is the one downside. There's not much. You're right. You have to buy things, and a lot of that stuff is really cool. They also have a great system that when you buy something big, that you just basically take a ticket, like a parking ticket, and then just they send it up to the front of the park, and by the end of your day, you just exchange the ticket for your item. That's a great call. That's exactly what I did with my lightsaber after I built it, and I loved it. So they have a great system going there too. I also love the waiting, the lines. That's something too. Is like, I know Luke, you mentioned this as a negative, and it can be a negative depending on your situation. I've definitely had negative experiences too, but like when we went on to Rise or when you're in Smuggler's Run, looking at every little detail is so cool. Like again, like Max went around, I saw firsthand and just hit every single button, pulled on every single cage, just like every little thing.
They're all
But it
welded
is a
shut.
blast. Yep, they are indeed.
I
But
keep
you're
thinking
like,
I'm
what
gonna
is this
find a
thing?
loose one, and I can just pocket it or something.
One day.
It's got to be
But
the
there's-
coolest way you could possibly make a line.
Yeah.
You can't convince me it's not a line. It's definitely the best line, but
It's I mean, especially
you still won't
in
find
Rise,
me enjoying a line.
Like Rise though does it so well in the fact that like even when you go into that room with all the stormtroopers and the TIE fighters, that's a line still, right? But it's disguised so well
Yeah,
that I'm
that's
like,
true.
give me more of that. Even when you're in the hallway with the Imperial officers, you're just like, this is a line, but I like this line because like you feel like you're in universe and it's so
Yeah.
natural.
And that
I
makes
think
the line
they
feel so
finally
much
cracked
shorter
it.
because they have the expected wait times. And they're like, oh, this line is 45 minutes. And you're like, oh, that sucks. But if the last 15 minutes of the line is that experience, then you feel like you're already doing something.
Yeah.
The person that I was with when I was there, we were writing Rise of the Resistance. And like we walked through all of the stormtroopers and we were waiting in line in the hallway. And she turned to me and she goes, what'd she say? She was like, oh, do they still have something else after this too? And like, we haven't even ridden the ride yet. And I was like, yeah, I think there's one more part to it. But even if you're going with other people, my advice for Galaxy's Edge is to just take the single rider's line, because you can basically walk right onto Rise of the Resistance and Smuggler's Run every single time. And we did it multiple times for other rides as well. We did it for the Ratatouille ride, and I feel like more often than not, I rode with the people that I was walking in the single riders line with anyway. They make a big
It's a
deal
light
about how
pack.
like you're going to be separated, and you're not going to ride with the people that you came with. But I feel like more often than not, I still did. So I highly recommend that. If there's ever a single riders line, do it, even if you're with like a small group of people. If you're with like 6 in a big group and it's important to you that you all do it together, then I get it. But that's my advice.
Even then, though, you're going to get off the ride and be with that person right away. Like, I don't know. I just find it's like, like, if you're on, depends on what ride you're on. Most of the time, it's like, yeah, it's just fine if we ride it separately. Like, it's fun to be in the same cart, but if you're going to talk to if you're on the right side, you're only going to talk to that one person potentially throughout the ride. You know, and it's like, it's your single rider. You just knock them all out. Bang, bang, boom.
It's like when you go to the movies with a big group of people and someone's like, oh, I want to sit next to so-and-so. And it's like, why? What are you going to do? Like, you guys aren't going to talk during the movie. You better not.
Yeah.
But
yeah, exactly. You're going to debrief when you get dinner after or something stupid. Like, you'll be fine.
Yeah. But anyway, that was my advice. That was my review of Galaxy's Edge. I give it a 10 out of 10. I never asked Luke how to rank it, but I'm assuming, Luke, you think that as a theme park, you give it like a 3 out of 10, but as a Star Wars park, you give it a 10 out of 10?
No, probably the opposite. Like, as a theme park, it's a 10 out of 10.
Is that not how you always rate your video games?
No, I do it the opposite, because in terms of all theme parks, the Star Wars one is obviously the best, so that's a 10 out of 10. But in terms of all Star Wars
That's
things,
right. Okay.
Galaxy's Edge is lower.
I had it. Okay, that makes sense.
But where else can you live in that Star Wars world, though? I don't know. It's just so cool. I know.
Yeah, I don't regret going any of the times I went. The last time we were in Anaheim for a Star Wars celebration in 2022, and I was staying an extra day than the rest of our group to go to Galaxy's Edge because I was already in Anaheim. And so if you're already in Orlando or Anaheim and you have a desire to go to Galaxy's Edge, I definitely recommend it. But when people like in Ohio ask me if it's worth going to, it's like thousands of dollars to get a trip and go down there and get a lodging and stuff, and I don't think it's worth all that. But yeah, if you can do it with relative convenience and lower cost, it's a good way to spend a day for sure.
Just like VR porn. The callback.
Matt, you're going to ruin VR for me. Or maybe you're going to make it way better.
Does anyone have any force for thought?
I do. Matt, this one goes out to you. This is So last week my force for thought was about Krennic placing the Death Star right in between Jedha and the sun to form an eclipse because he's a sassy bitch.
Yeah.
Also in that same scene, it's a very fruitful scene for force for thought because Jedha starts getting destroyed and all the main characters come out of the Saw's jail, and K2SO has that line, there's a problem on the horizon, there's no horizon, and all hell breaks loose and they run away and they get away at the last second. And Bodhi, Matt's favorite character, is there, and he's got those cool glasses on, or goggles on top of his head that Matt loves so much, and the world starts falling apart, dust fills the air, everyone squints, and Bodhi does not use his goggles. For a man that wears them on top of his head all of the time, it is kind of painful to watch him not use them the one time they would really come in handy.
No, easy situation. As a glasses wearer, right? You put them on top of your head once in a while, and you always forget where they're at. The 2 days ago, Lynn was like, where are my sunglasses? They're on your head. They're always on your head. You always forget they're right there. It's so convenient, and it's just not.
But they're not always on her head, the way Bodhi's goggles are always on his head. Literally all of the time. He sleeps with them, I believe. I can't speak to whether that's canon, but 100% of the times I see Bodhi, he's got those goggles on top of his head. And exactly one time, he could have used them on his eyes, and it would have been a helpful thing to have.
There will be a Rogue One prequel that isn't Andor, that has Bodhi, and he's going to drop his goggles on, and he's going to say, it's go time, and the crowd's going to erupt in cheers. They're like, finally!
Yes.
They've been teasing the
I will
goggles
do
for
that.
decades.
You'll be funnier if he is working up. Insurance doesn't cover the lenses, but they cover the frames. So he puts them down. There's no lenses in there. There's just frames. So there's no actual protectiveness of his eyeballs. Damn,
It's just
that
like
Imperial.
horse blinders
Yeah.
for when he needs to
Horse
focus.
He just has ADD. Oh, that is interesting. All right. Well, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think of Galaxy's Edge or Bodhi's
Yes.
goggles. You can reach out to us at forceforthought@gmail.com or across social media at Force for Thought.
Yes, Sammy.